automating data entry or automating transaction entry using QuickBooks Online. Still me. I've been here with Intuit for a while now, and still doing the QBO show. We're not having a show today, though, in case you were listening to the podcast. We do them bi-weekly. You can find out more at radiofreeqb.com, and then do download the deck. If you've never been to one of our webinars before, it does have a link to the matrix, which tries to compare the QuickBooks ecosystem, Pro, Premier, Enterprise, Accountant Editions, QBO Essentials, and Plus. Yes, I leave out Simple Start because I just figure you don't have a lot of clients in Simple Start across like 140 different feature sets, right? So that's me, that's Abby, but that's, like 3 years ago. I just like that pick. The back of Mount Lemmon in Tucson. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to do in product. I am going to go through just a couple slides, but we're going to look at bank rules and the auto add feature. I'm actually going to upload, because that one I'm going to try to do in real time. I have like a spreadsheet, upload a couple transactions into a bank feed, and I'm going to try to get it to, because I have a setting, which I'll show you, in the rule for this Google vendor. It's like advertising expense. So I created a rule, and there's a box. I'll show you that auto add to register once the rule's applied. And we're going to see it, hopefully, in the register, right? So you'll be able to see. I'm going to try to prove some of this auto entry already happening. Now, some of the stuff I had to do yesterday for today, right, because it's stuff like that. But I'm going to try to show the result in most cases of the automation of it happening. And a lot of times it happens during the night, right, things like that, particularly if you got a direct bank feed. Then we'll look at the main global setting, invoice automatically for unbilled activity. And I have a fairly absurd invoice that has a bunch of unbilled activity over weeks of time. And we'll look at that one, recurring transactions, right, and doing the sales receipt. That'll be in product as well as with screenshots. We'll look at auto sending reporting, right? And then we'll look at one of my favorite reports, recent automatic transactions. I actually have friends that auto send that report out to clients that don't have access to the QBO client file, so they can see the recent automatic transactions that happen in QBO. Then I will dive into Hubdoc, not on the phone. It's just going to be on the browser, although I have the phone app too. Because how does that sync data to QBO? Because it does match with the bank feed, so we'll try that as well. And then how do you configure the auto sync? So when the next time you upload a receipt, that you take a picture on the phone, it goes into Hubdoc, and then it goes right over to QBO. You don't have to push it. So there's things like Receipt Bank, Hubdoc, Expensify, things that do the either fetching of data, gathering, sending to QuickBooks Online, particularly if your client has a lot of vendors, there's a lot of complexity with purchasing. I would suggest these vendors, particularly Expensify, Receipt Bank, and then Hubdoc too, as well, because they can automate a lot of the data entry and syncing with the bank feed. So Hubdoc's my example for today. Hopefully that one works out. And then there's also an automation in sending the trial balance data to ProConnect Tax Online. Now, I have to push send, but I mean the balances automatically flow to the tax return. So that'll be the last thing, because when you're in a client file from QBOA, right, there is under the accountant toolbox, trial balance tool, and that pushes data to a return. So we'll look at that too if that's what you do. Now again, I'm using QBO Plus. Not that you have to all the time or have clients for it, but because some of the automation settings are definitely in Essentials as well. But in my example, I'm using Plus, and I just like as a reminder why I've used Plus. Not really for the users. I'm just 1 or 2 users or something, but it's really the class location tracking, light inventory, job costing, and two-sided items, which is still my favorite of why I'm using Plus. And then budgeting if you're doing that, because I can do multiple budgets per fiscal year, yet only on the P&L side, so not on the balance sheet side. And then I got all the reports, 100-plus reports. Now, Essentials, though, has accounts payable, recurring transactions we're going to look at today, and multi-currency, and, some of this other automation, invoice for unbilled activity and stuff. That would be in Essentials as well. Right, so a client can be on, this webinar is really for your clients that are using Essentials or Plus. Okay, but I'm in Plus most days because to me that's still most akin to Pro, right? I'm going to show you this. We're going to start with the bank feeds automation rule, and I'm going to upload, but I'm going to go to my rule first, and you have that automatically add to my books, right? That setting. You're not going to do it for every single rule, but it does. It is really one of our first or second forays into automating data entry. Being able to check off that box once the rule's applied, it'll then put it into the register for me. I don't have to accept into the register, okay? So that one we're going to look at. I think that's key. And then the automatically invoice unbilled activity, this is a global setting, and I have that turned on, and it did create an invoice a couple days ago. We're going to use that as an example. And then auto send reports, we'll look at that a little later. And then I'll come back here in a sec. Let's do the bank feed, and then we'll come into the automation setting. And then just know, though, if you guys know, one second, please, let me clear my throat. Anything that happens with settings that automates data entry or the bank feed is all going to, or a third-party app, is usually going to show as a system administrator in the audit log, right? And I'll come back to this slide, but that's what you'll see as system administrator. If you're wondering what that means, these are all these transactions that were entered because I set up recurring transactions. We'll be looking at recurring transactions as well, right? So, okay, cool. So we're in product, and I'd like to start with the banking first and automating data entry. Now, we'll get to rules in a sec because that's where it's going to stem from. But, and I don't know if you guys were at any of you were at the Expensify webinar, but we had some stuff come over for Expensify automatically, and they matched already, you know. And if I had a rule applied, it could automatically put it in the register. But I do have a transaction. I haven't uploaded it yet. I'm going to, because once I do, we won't even see it. It's just going to go right into QuickBooks. But there's a vendor I have. If I go to Manage Rules, there's a vendor that I do advertising with Google or Google Ads. So I have that as a rule, and it happens automatically because it's always the same amount a month. Then what I do is, instead of me having to, sure, a rule's great because it'll turn it green, right? And then I can go to the Recognize tab, and then you check them all off and do batch actions except, which puts them all in the register. But why not just bypass that? So this box I have automatically added to my books. For anything Google, when the transaction meets any of the following criteria, description, or again, you could do the bank text contains Google, right? Something like that. Or the amount is, right? You can do this stuff all over, like amount is greater than, equal, whatever, because sometimes you'll have multiple rules per vendor. Like Amazon's a great example. Like I have a rule for anything over $500, it goes to a fixed asset. Another current asset account. But for anything under, up to $50, I have it going to an expense or whatever. So you can do several rules per vendor if you want. And I find that helps. And I'm sure you have clients that have multiple rules per vendor depending on their purchasing activity. But I just have, description, bank text, when it says Google, the rule is going to make it an expense. This is going to be a credit card expense or a debit card expense, whatever, going to this payee, advertising expense. I could do a class, default class as well, to automate this field being filled, right, and a location. I'll do this for Tucson, just in case I happen to be running reports. You can even have a default memo if you want, right? This is for our bookkeeping services. Right. Now, this is the box, though, automatically add to my books, right? So I have that. So anything that comes down from the bank feed or the credit card feed, the checking account or credit card, that is going to, or, debit card expense or whatever it was, that will turn it green, right? But we're going to go one step further. Because I checked the box, it doesn't just put it in this recognized section, right? It's actually going to put it into QB, into the register itself. So I should not even see it under all. Under the All tab. So let's do that. I have this spreadsheet. I'm uploading a couple things. One's for Google, one's for Walmart that I'm going to use through Hubdoc later on. It's going to match to that automatically. So I'm going to upload this because I don't really have a direct connection to the bank account. So I'm going to upload it there. So I'm just saving it, and I'm going to close out of it, and then we're going to do file upload. Browse out, whether it's a credit card account or the bank account, and then you just grab the form. So this is a good example, too, of when you're starting a client, and Cecilia, I'll get to your question in a sec. Thanks for that, though. But let me just get this thought out, because I'm like a goldfish as far as short-term memory goes. See? Anyway, your clients you're going to set up with direct connection, right? But sometimes when you first connect that bank account, you want to get like the last 6 months or whatever, like beyond 90 days. So you get a CSV, or the OFX file is another good one, or a .qbo file from the bank or credit union, and you can upload it to start the feed, and then it can be a direct connection from there. So I'm kind of doing what you've probably already done when you're starting your bank feed with a client, if they want some history to come in past 90 days, right? But in my case, I'm just trying to get the data in there. So I'm pretending it's a direct connection to show in real time because that happens in the middle of the night. I'm just forcing it, okay? So we can see the result. Now, Celia asked, is there a limit to the amount of rules per vendor? No, I don't know of any bank rule limit at this time. I kind of wish you could sort the bank rule list, though. You know, I've been waiting for that enhancement because I can't yet by name. That'd be sweet. Not to be a complainer, but still, there's some things that I'd like to see. But that's because it's hard for me to find the rules sometimes. But no, and as far as I know, there's no limit to the amount of rules per vendor at all. But I've just been seeing more and more that they're doing multiple rules per vendor, and you can stack rank them. I should go back to the rule page eventually because we apply the rules based on the order they are in the rule list. So if you have 3 or 4 rules for Amazon, for a vendor, and you want it to always look at the first rule first, right, then you put those in order. And those are easy to grab and move them around. I just want to be able to sort the list. All right, anyway, so I'm grabbing this CSV, right, and I'm going to put it into the checking account. I'm hoping it wasn't supposed to be the Amex. I think for the Hubdoc it's supposed to be the Amex. Yeah, let me go back. I'm on the Amex, right, got to put it in the right account. Okay, grabbing your file, .ofx, .qbo, .csv, whatever. Next, select your account. Right, I hope you guys all do this, but this is me uploading from the bank, not a direct. And then it's only 3 fields. I just choose them out. I usually leave it in column 1 and then click next. And then those are them, right? I click next and yes. Now they're negatives. Why? Because they're expenses, right? If I put them in as positive, like you might think it's just a debit amount of an expense, so but still it's a positive number, right? Actually, that'll make it a customer payment or a deposit or something. So I always put them as negative when you're uploading from CSV. Now, I have under recognize, let's just see. See, now Google wasn't there, right? And it's not in the all either for this. Let's look for it. Bank detail. Like, where's Google? It should have been there. That's because the rule, because I have it, see? It's in the register. Like, when I click search, right? When you left-click search on the field, it shows the last 10 transactions that happened or that you modified or whatever. This one wasn't in there today. I was working on this one. So this transaction didn't even go to the all or recognized list in the feed because of the checkbox that I had set to automatically add to register. So once the rule is applied, it just put it into the register. And the way you can tell that and prove that is right here, online banking matches. You click on it, it'll say automatically added with rule. So the other mode it could say is manually added with rule, meaning the rule was applied, but then I still had to accept it into the register. So that checkbox really does automate data entry once you set it up on the rule. And so, but consider that. I mean, there are going to be some things, I guess the line in the sand is, hey, do I ever really need to review the Google expense that Clay does monthly for $100? No. Okay, then check the box. If I do need to review it before I quote unquote approve it, meaning accept it into the register, because I use the accepting, like for review tab as my approval stage, if you will. You probably do the same. If I do have review it for whatever reason, then I would not check the box, right? But that literally skipped the for review. No, I'm sorry. It skipped the all or recognize. Yeah, it skipped the for review tab. It just came in and then was automatically added. And I should also see that if you go to the audit log, let's look at the audit log. That's under the gear icon. Because during the night, it should say system admin for like online banking, and add it into the register. Now, because my audit log report takes a while to run, I'm going to show a couple things in here, and then we'll go to the automation setting for invoices, right? But I don't want to have to come back to this because you just see the wheel spinning. Anyway, see online banking, right? If I can, so that's what that did, Or if we scroll down to system administrator, I have this invoice that I want to show for $96.63.50, and that is, I will show that invoice, but that's like the setting that I'm about to show you for the automation, invoice automatically for unbilled activity, right? And we've gone over that before, on the Beyond the Basics. You've seen this setting, but it's a way to also automate just QBO on its own without having to do a third party or something. But you will see system administration when it's not you or your client or another staff member. Right? Like I see Clay, I see Woody, He's doing most of the stuff. Oh, I saw his 1099 user, online banking administration. So that's happening automatically, right? And we'll go back to banking just to show, again, the rules. That's what you want to do. Make alphabetical. But here's what I mean, Cecilia, right? If this is the important Amazon one, then I move it up above the lower Amazon one. Right now I get Amazon big, and then I got Amazon. So I'm stack ranking it. So if you have 3 or 4 per vendor, put them in the stack rank order you want to what do you want QBO to do, because we look at this order too. I should say I don't. QBO does, right? But remember that checkbox, right? Anything that has this auto add icon, like anything from Stacy I get, I just add to my books because I never have to review her stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, consider this for automating data entry. This is why I'm becoming more of a proponent of not actually adding, of using, particularly on the purchase side, this stuff. I mean, I know for bills, I'll do bills, and I get it. Payables, sure, and purchase order makes sense. Got it. Got to receive the inventory. No way to automate that yet. But for like expenses, and hopefully not using too many checks, credit card expenses, certainly, I try to do the auto add on a lot of that stuff. Why am I going to create an expense then to create a match later with the feed? Why not wait 2 or 3 days? And that's a question that only you can really answer because you have the real clients, right? This is me theorizing, but you would be able to tell me, well, this is why they can't wait for 2 or 3 days for the feed. But I'm just becoming more of a proponent of that, particularly with that checkbox. It just automates data entry, at least on the purchasing side. Not that I couldn't do it on the payment side. I could, but I typically see it for expenses and purchasing. All right, so less data entry you have to do, less mistakes, et cetera. You know the story there. All right, probably one of my favorite settings, but I don't really use it a lot. Gear icon accountant settings. Advanced. And I usually warn people for this one because this is global, right? But every day, or we'll change it to weekly, maybe that's more, or even maybe monthly. This automatically invoice unbilled activity, any delayed charge form, any time on an expense side, bill, check, time entry, anywhere I tagged a customer, because this isn't specific to a customer. That's recurring transactions. We'll go there next. This is a global setting. So on Wednesday of next week, it's going to create however many invoices for whatever customers had unbilled activity. In other words, it wasn't invoiced yet, whatever time, material, expense, so it tags to that customer or sub-customer or project, right? So know your client. If they need to add stuff from the drawer to the invoice and be specific about, hey, what am I putting, on the invoice, then don't turn this one on, okay? But I had it on, and I had, in a way, I was able to see how much unbilled activity I've racked up over the years because it created this rather absurd invoice that I haven't, usually don't do $10,000 invoices. But that setting's pretty cool for, and I'm sure you have some clients, that's really the only real automation setting beyond the checkbox in the bank feed is this one in here in advanced, right? I mean, I don't know of any, there's nothing in the expenses that automates anything. Other than, no, really, there's nothing. It's really going to be that one setting, and then we'll look at recurring transactions, okay? And that's kind of the automation built into QBO outside of a few other things I'm about to show, right? Like reports and stuff. But that's not even a setting. But it's an advanced setting, and it's under automation. Now, let me do my stump speech on the other 3. This one's cool, but it's not just for vendors. It's customers and employees too. But I have some friends that have that turned on because when their clients go and hit a vendor, the account comes in, from the last transaction. It copies it. The pre-fill forms are previously under content. I mean, that's pretty cool. Kind of like the one in desktop, but not really, because the one in desktop you can specify specific. You can make it specific to vendors, where this is customer, employees, and vendors, right? Automatically apply credits or bill payments. This will do the next invoice or bill in line. So again, most people want to have control what credit memo goes to what invoice. But these are other ways to automate. There's really 4 automation settings, that you can really check off and, let QBO do the work for you. But I just find from listening to accountants for so long, right, that you really want to have a little more control over that stuff. So wait till your client proves you that these are good for them. Don't start with it. That's just my advice. Take it with a grain of salt, though. I usually default to you all for those types of things. What are you seeing in your client base? That's always good information for me to know. But yeah, we have it turned on, and this is what happened. I'm going to go find this particular invoice, It was L, yeah, here it is, this one. This was created automatically, and you saw on the audit log report that it had system administrator, right? And I even have a screenshot to prove it. But I just had a bunch of unbilled activity, so it just picked it up. You know, I guess I've had it since July. I think there was another one I had for years, like back through 15, and it was like a $50,000 invoice, and like I sent it to Stacy because it had 150 different lines, because it'll create a line for each unbilled time, expense, or material that I tagged somewhere to this customer. 150 different lines. I sent it to her just for fun. And it actually opens and loads. I should have kept that. Maybe that would have been a little more entertaining for today. But anyways, I figured this would be more reasonable, or rational, if you will. The other invoice is a little irrational. And then you can always look at 11 linked transactions, right? You can remove them or remove all. That's pretty cool. But the blue thing is right? These are the breadcrumbs, right? This feature, and I'm showing you the result, and I showed it in the audit log. I have another slide too. I think it's pretty critical. But you know what client it's not going to work with, right? So here's the thing, just to go again. System administrator, it was done on the 15th, right, at 1:22 a.m. Mountain Time, right? Created that for this client. You know, and I should find the other one. It's really funny. 150 different lines on the transaction. So that is also a way to clear, although there's a better way to clear unbilled activity in a batch. If you need to do that, like, you know how you have clients saying, hey, I have all this unbilled time, and then every time I go create an invoice, a drawer opens up with like 85 time entries that QBO wants to create an invoice for because they came over during the conversion from desktop. I'm sure you fell into that situation or scenario. I have a video. Let me know. Email me, and I'll send it to you on how to clear unbilled activity that you're never going to invoice for in one fell swoop. It works, I would say, 9 out of 10 times. Okay? There's a little, you change the URL a little bit. It lets you clear unbilled activity you're never going to invoice for. Okay? So email me, woody_adams@intuit.com. Happy to help with that. So this invoice proves, proves that. Now, let's go to probably one of my favorite feature sets for automating data entry that's built in that doesn't cost any extra money or anything, just time in creating it. And that is, as you know it in desktop, memorize transactions. And in QBO, Essentials and Plus is called recurring transactions. So we've hit the bank rule, the auto add bank rule, right? The automatically invoice for unbilled activity. Okay, and you saw the audit log, and you know that these are either going to be online banking administrator users or system admins. They're actually not in your user list, right? They're behind the scenes. You never see them. But you'll see them in the audit log, and that helps you. If your client's like freaked out about it, tell them what that's for. Okay, cool. Recurring transactions, auto email, invoice, sales receipt. That's what we're going to look at next. Essentials and Plus offers this ability, and you're already doing it. And if you're on a desktop champion, you've been doing it for years there too. We just changed the name, but essentially it's very much the same thing, where I can create a recurring transaction for almost any transaction type, and then QBO, once I create the template, I can set the interval for automation of data entry. Simple Start will not have this, obviously not self-employed. But to be fair, if your client needs transactions and reports, then they're not using self-employed. See, the only, I would say 3 transactions are not recurringable. I know it's not a word. Payroll, bill payments. You don't see bill pays in here, or pay bills in here, sorry, bill pays. And a customer payment. I don't mean a sales receipt. I mean against an invoice. Those can't be made memorized. You can't memorize those or make them recurring, but almost everything else you can, and I know you know this because you're doing it with journal entries. Like I got a journal entry one for prepaid, I think, in here. Oh, maybe it's in a different file. No, there it is. Yeah, prepaids. That happens monthly, right? But I'm focused on here is probably the best kept secret if you have QuickBooks payments turned on. And now I'm going to go into a different file, my friend that has payments turned on, because what it is the ability to, and this is for your clients. I mean, if you're using the Your Books file in QBOA, you have the ability to do this. You have, because your dashboard of QBOA, the client dashboard, is actually your client list. I mean, even if you're not using the Your Books file, later on today, tomorrow, whatever, go in, click on customers. It'll be a mirror image of your client dashboard of QBOA. So one day when you eventually use the Your Books file, you can set up recurring sales receipt or sales receipt template per client, and then do ACH and get their banking routing. And it takes 5 days to fund, but every month they will get a receipt. I'm going to show you the result of that and then how you would set it up. But I don't have payments turned on in this file. But I'm going to go into Sean's, right, because he does. And I promised him I wouldn't hit save and close, although he said I could. All right, but that's dangerous. I would not let me do it. So I'm going to go into his QBOA and in his file, and this is how you would set it up to automate getting paid, to get rid of invoicing clients. Now I'm talking to you all now, the accountant, not even your client, because once you see this, then you're going to tell your clients about it, because once we do things and it's successful, well, then that's easier to share it, encourage another to adopt the platform if it saves you time, okay? So I'm going into clients, and he actually has a client that would have this. Now, I'm not going to save anything or show you any, like, personal or non-private info, but we're going to go into recurring transactions, because this is where you would set a template. They aren't in here. I'm not going to save one. We're going to create one. You create new. You choose sales receipt. I'm not worried about AR here. Of course, I'll show you the thing with invoicing. We'll talk about that in a sec. But I'm going to go to a sales receipt, because this is how I can bypass accounts receivable and stuff. Because on sales receipts and invoices, there's an automatically send email option. In desktop, you cannot automatically send transactions out of it, nor will it automatically pick up unbilled activity. You still have to add time costs from the add time cost window, as we know. So I'm just going to call this, monthly retainer, monthly, service fee that you guys provide. So accounting services, you're doing a bank rec. Wait, before the bank rec, you're doing like bank feeds, bank rec reports. You charge them $300 a month, and I want to automate getting paid every month. So I have payments turned on. It's actually a setting. And we'll look at that, but I don't want to go in there because I don't want you to see his merchant account number, but that's where you would go. You just go to gear icon, accountant settings, payments, right, and sign up for it. It's free to sign up for, by the way. There's no monthly fee. It's just that the ACH that I'm showing you, because credit cards will have fees, that's 5 days to fund, but it's free. So payments is free, and the getting paid from your clients or your client's customer is paying them, the ACH is free if they have payments turned on. Okay. So I'm going to choose Sean here. And then, the product and service that we're selling, right? Or whatever. It's a service, something like that. We'll just do $300. Now, under payment method, I'm going to choose ACH. And you'll see it's loading. Enter bank info. So, and we'll do this monthly. We're going to start it, September 1st. And just pretend this is like accounting consulting, whatever you guys put in your description. For you, what I would do, if I'm using the Yorbooks file, I'd use a bundle item. Call it accounting services, and then you can just put in a description that's default, and they don't even have to see all the stuff you're doing, the phases of the job. Bundle items you can set up in the products and service list. It's a great idea to hide the work you're doing and it just be in a description with the total amount, So, and a lot of firms that are doing this have 2 or 3 different levels of services they're offering. Okay, fair enough, but I'm going to use a self-adhesive 3M dog bone thing, whatever. And let's do another item just for fun. I have, this one as well. And we'll say it's, $100. Payroll services, just pretend it's that, all right? So it's $400 sales receipt. I shows ACH, and then I can click enter bank info. So this allows me, when I'm on the phone with Sean, I can say, hey, I need your routing and bank account number. This is just going to be a direct draw from your checking account every month. It's going to be on the first of the month, and then I'll put in the banking, the routing, the phone number, the name, and then I can click on the signed authorization, and I can read it out. I got to read the script to your customer, right? So this is like the PCI compliance, an authorization form. So on today's date, Sean, you agree to let us, you guys have probably seen this before, because this is a form that like your utility will send you, or I know I saw this with my water bill, or whatever we pay in an automated fashion online. Electronic debit from your bank account, blah, 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 right? So there's that, as well as or you can read the script, so that was it. You check it off, and that's PCI compliance. That's SOX compliance right there. And you put in their full name, et cetera. Or you could also do a credit card if you want to, right? If you're doing credit card, it's credit card. But ACH is free, no cost to you. But the knock on it, or I should say not knock, but the rub, is that it's 5 days to fund. However, that's probably better than any kind of AR cycle you're on currently. If the clients are paying you in 30 days anyway, then 5 days is better. And then I would just choose automatically send. I have all the bank info. I already have the signed authorization. And then the first of every month, Sean's going to receive this as an email. And I'll show you what that looks like. Now, I'm not going to see the $400 in my checking account until the 6th. Just until, right now it's a 5-day funding period. Credit card's 2 to 3, ACH is 5. I hope we reduce it to what's normal. I think the industry standard is 2 to 3. But again, this is free. Payments is free. Me setting these up, it's just time to set up the recurring sales receipt. Now, that's how you set it up, and it's like set it, forget it, right? On the recurring transaction. So let me get out of here, exit without saving, and I want to go back into my QBOA in the file. Because let's say I'm going to, Sean can't pay me 1 month or something. When you have the recurring, sales receipt or the invoice, whatever you're using, the drop-down arrow, you can, let me see here. Wait a minute. There's others that I have. There you go. You can pause it. You can skip next date. When you pause it, then you have to go back in and resume it. Skip next date would skip skip September and bill them on October 1st, or delete it out. So you have these options that were added in like a year, 14 months ago. That's helpful. I don't know if a lot of people know about them, but I use them periodically when I know that I'm giving them a month free or something. I just pause it, or I choose to skip next date. Right? Now, what does the client see? And this I have in a different deck. Yes, let's look at this. It's one slide, but here's what they see. So I sent this sales receipt out. Here's the sales receipt summary. It's what you would expect, right? Payment method e-check, or it might say ACH, right? And with the service and stuff. Again, I do suggest bill item for accounting services, so you can put in 3 or 4 things you're going to do and then just list it out in like normal language, right? And that's what the client would see. So that's setting up the recurring sales receipt template. This is what your client would see. Since I'm in my file, I don't care. Go to account and settings. Your first step would be click on payments, right? And then you just apply for it. And it'll open up in another window, and you have to put in your banking routing. This is what your client would do too. But it's free bank transfers, and then here are the swipe rates, credit card rates. And there's no termination fee. There's no monthly fee. You just click set it up. You put in your banking routing. This is the firm doing this, so this is your client doing it that has the business, is using the QBO. And then you set up the recurring sales receipts for recurring monthly transactions that you get. Okay, so that's where you go in settings to do that, and that's what the sales receipt looks like in the recurring transaction. Let me go back to recurring transactions to look at an invoice, just so you know that the invoice as well has the ability to automatically send an email. And if I had payments turned on, it would allow me to there'd be a pay button now, and I can choose if I want my client to pay me by ACH only or credit card only or both. I just don't happen to have payments turned on, but that's another way. That's not really automating it. Well, I guess it's automating getting paid, because then you don't have to receive the payment. Like the invoice is just stamped paid, and then you're funded a couple, 3 days later. So this would work for invoices too. I just find sales receipt is what you want to use in a recurring template with payments turned on and ACH when you're trying to automate getting paid and it's not an accounts receivable scenario, like monthly services, dues, subscriptions, etc. Why do AR for that? Now, invoices also have an automatically send email. It's literally going to send it out. I have an example today. Here's my invoice. Got it. It was created automatically, and then it was sent to me, from Loturco Supplies. It's just the invoice. Printer save. If I had payments turned on, there'd be what on here? Pay now. But this, include unbilled charges. Look, this makes it specific to a customer. Not the global setting. So if you're like, hey, Woody was showing that global, invoice against unbilled activity, which is great, but this client I'm thinking of, they only have about 8 customers that this would work really well for, but the rest is just, they don't want to do a global setting. It would just be a mess of data entry that I'd have to clean up. So you can make it specific to a customer, right? Include unbilled charges. Once this invoice is created automatically, it's created daily, so start date, it's going to start tomorrow, too. It's going to continue on tomorrow. $25 plus any unbilled activity that's linked to Bayshore Chamber of Commerce SNH 14. And if you're not sure what that means, or you haven't been in some of the other webinars for service-based, because we cover this, unbilled activity, what is that? That's if I have a delayed charge. This is a non-posting sales transaction to that customer. That recurring invoice will pick this up. If I have an expense or a bill or a check somewhere on the cost side where I was purchasing some stuff and I tagged the customer and marked it billable. Or time entry as well, So that recurring invoice is automation of data entry for that specific customer. And that's how you can control it. Or, like we know, you can do accountant settings advanced for if your client doesn't care and doesn't need to know or push, they just want invoices created so nothing falls through the cracks. Well, this is the automatically invoice unbilled activity. Okay? And that's the global one. Cool. So, bank rules, the auto add, the global setting, recurring transactions, QB payments, right? Now, there's also a thing for reminders, because I'm going to go into a different file. It might not necessarily be about data entry. It might be about just reminding you to do stuff. That you can also set up in recurring transactions. So I just happen to have some in this file. When I come in and it loads, is it going to show me? It is. Good. Right on the top of the dashboard, tasks, respond to your recurring template reminders. I click view reminders. It's going to show me everything that, it's a way to automate getting reminded. Right? We don't really have other reminders other than that. And the reminders are right off the recurring transactions. So don't forget that, because this would allow me, hey, I'm not actually going to create these transactions until the day comes. I don't really want QBO to do it because I'm out doing other things and I just don't want it automated, but I want to be reminded so I can then create it in the action column. And reminders list is just, you can do a reminder on almost anything, and some people use it as a workaround just to have reminders. They use like a $0 check, $0 journal entry, whatever. Comes up every month. Hey, remember to turn off, remember to lock the kitchen fridge before you go home because, it's a restaurant, all the meat will die. Stuff like that, right? So you just click on reminder list and then just click new and use any transaction that's appropriate, non-posting charge probably if you just want a reminder, right? So that's another thing that kind of automates at least getting reminded to either do the thing. I wanted to make sure I did that. So we got reporting left, we got Hubdoc, we got send trial balance to PTO. Reporting. The report would need to be customized. In other words, and by the way, I star reports. Let's say you have some key report that you've customized, like a P&L, and because your client wants this and they want to see previous period, percent change, and previous year percent change, as well as year to date. So you build this report that you want. You don't want to reinvent it next time. You save your customization. The only reason why I'm showing this is that you can add it to a group. And if you want, this is the auto send reporting feature, because this is also automation, not really for data entry, but reporting. It still counts, right? It's you not having to do it. Does it at night, like while you slept. You create a group, and when you're saving the report customizations you save them to a particular group. You don't have to share them or anything, but you save them to a group, and this is user specific. So like you wouldn't see it if I'm doing it. So I save it to a group, right? The sharing is when other people see it, but you add it to a group, okay? And we go to custom reports. That's your quote-unquote memorized report list. And I have, let's go to the D4, right? You can schedule the group to go. Daily, weekly, whatever. Every Friday, whoever's on the email line. And you can have multiple email addresses, separate with a comma, because you probably don't see that well. It's grayed out, but it says separate emails with a comma. So you can have 4, 5, 3, whatever people on here, and put in your own information here, and it's going to come as a PDF attachment. Now, qualification. This is not encrypted. So if there's laws against that in your state, then you're not going to use this feature. But I wanted to let you know that you can auto-send reports out, and it's like a system admin in the audit log when it's sent. But you can't do it individual reports, they have to be in a group. So I could do individual reports. I just have to add a group for that individual report. In this case, it's going to send 4 reports. Now, what does it look like when you get it? So that's auto-sending reports. You've probably seen that if we've ever been to the account best practices. So sorry if it's old news, but this is automation. Got to include it. Let's see here. Here's the report I got. It was in the For Us group. That's a transaction detail by account, but instead of the amount and balance columns, it's debit credit. Kind of like that. I have that sent to this person all the time because they don't understand amount and balance, et cetera, et cetera. And there's no, canned way this report doesn't come out. Or if you drill into an amount on a P&L balance sheet, it's not like you see debit and credit columns, right? It's amount balance. So this is more, I think, relevant, true, if you will. And so this is what my report looks like. It's a PDF, or there is a checkbox for Excel. So it could be sent as Excel if you want. And that's at the bottom of the auto-send window. However, this is what it looks like. But notice I didn't have to put in a password, right? So QBO has done this forever, like since I've been using it since when I first started in early 2009 with QuickBooks Online in general, a classic QBO. But Desktop got this feature of auto-sending reports in 2017 as an enhancement. And but it is encrypted. You can put in a password. That's cool. So again, Desktop, that was good. But this has been in QBO for a long time. It's just not encrypted. But still, it's automation. You're auto-sending reports. And one that I find that is really helpful is, let me go back into my other file. The recent transaction report, recent automatic transactions. This is a great one to automate, and then we'll move on to some of the other stuff. But the recent automatic transaction report, let me see if I ran it yesterday. It would be listed here. Well, I can just start typing in that left-hand panel. See? So from the 15th, starting the 12th, right? I have, these transactions are automatically added into QBO, whether it was whether it was the setting or recurring transaction. That's basically where they came from. So this is a good one to customize, auto-send to clients if they don't have impact, like weekly, hey, here's all the transactions, automatically created. You can even name the report, what QBO did while you slept, something like that. Okay, so that's reporting. Now let's look at Hubdoc. I'm going to go into QBO as a client because I need the app. I have it under a different name. And, 1 second. I'm going to go into the same file we've been in, Cloud Collaboration, and I'm going in as a client would, okay, because that's the direct integration with the apps. Now, I have Hubdoc, and I did take a picture of a receipt with their app on the phone. It was just gas from Walmart. It's like $20. The Jerry Seinfeld's Perfect Pump, if you've ever seen that commercial. So I'm going to go into my apps, and I'm launching Hubdoc from here. You could use Receipt Bank, would be great for this too. These are all part of the Pro Advisor affiliation. You can connect them from QBOA, and they have like 20-25% off. So go into apps in QBOA, you can see it, but I need to launch it from as if I'm a client. And I want to show some of the auto configuring and the auto sync that you can set up. This is Hubdoc. I'm just using it as an example, but I like the app. And then, of course, Receipt Bank, you can do it as well. And I like the phone app with both, but I just happen to have Hubdoc. So see, this is what I uploaded. The bill date's August 14th, but I uploaded it this morning, and it's a receipt from the phone, okay? Commerce, I think I even penciled out my number, yep. And it was $20, right? For Walmart, I think I did it 2 days ago. I got gas. Now, you might have never seen Hubdoc before. What it does is it fetches data from different bills. Let me see here. Let me open these and see. American Express, credit card statements, Comcast bills, Netflix, you name it. They support like 2,000 vendors that they'll fetch data from, and it brings in the receipt. So if you have a client that really needs receipts attached to purchasing, complexity, this is an awesome app for that, particularly when you have a lot of vendors and a lot of sophistication on their purchasing. Then this is a great one to use. And you can even add accounts, manually add them. And you saw from me, you can upload, right? So I have stuff from Tucson Airport, that would show a transaction that came in. Now, in my example today, it's the Walmart one that I uploaded this morning from the phone, or let's pretend it was August 14th and I was in my car after pumping the gas and just took a picture, and it went right into Hubdoc with the receipt attached. Now, it hasn't created a transaction yet, but this is how you would do it. I'm going to choose the receipt because that's what it is. Now, it pulls in my vendors from QBO, right? So I have Walmart here. I have the date and the due date, whatever. Don't need a due date. You can put the invoice number. Now, I think you can pay for an OCR technology. I think Receipt Bank has the OCR technology, so consider that as well. But it's a USD currency. It's $20, and it's paid, right? Already came over, okay? Already paid for it. But look what you can do here. Before I publish it, I can configure how I want it to go to QBO. And there's a checkbox to auto sync. So from now on, well, it's kind of like the bank rule or setting up the recurring template and recurring transactions. Once I set it up, then the app, whatever app it would be, whether it was QBO in my other examples or Hubdoc here, will then do what you tell it you want it to do without you even doing it, and then send it over to QBO to match with the bank feed, right? Now, so before I send it, so you would check the box for auto sync for that, and you want to save the configuration, because really this is an expense. The vendor's Walmart, and again, these are coming over from QBO free. The payment type was the credit card, and I'm using the Amex 23004. Location, class tracking, what's the account? We'll do auto. Do I have anything for that? No? Do I do gas? What did I call it? Gas and oil? Yeah. And then a description, and you can do, if I'm reimbursing that or getting reimbursed from my customer because we're driving to Home Depot, then we're going out to the, we're charging them for mileage, then you can bill them for mileage or something like that. Right? So that's me configuring what I want it to show in QBO. And then when you click auto sync, when I click publish, then the next time Walmart comes in, it's going to configure it in the same fashion. It'll be different amount because I rarely get a perfect pump, right? And then it's going to send it over to QuickBooks Online. So the auto sync, I think, is phenomenal for that. I turn it off just so I can show, but that's what it is, and it's still in a non-published state. Now, before I publish it, and then we're going to end with ProConnect Tax Online and pushing the balances, but that will only take a couple minutes. I remember I uploaded the amounts earlier. Credit card, Walmart, rules applied. Now, my goal is that Hubdoc's going to match to this. So the thing is, when it sends over from Hubdoc, but I also connected the bank feed in QBO, so I don't want to duplicate this $20, right? So Hubdoc should match to this because it's the same date, same amount, same vendor, right, when we send it over. That's the goal, to match, not to duplicate, but to match. We should say 1 record found or 2 records found, or 1 record found means quote-unquote match, right? Now, some people, if they might just use Hubdoc and bypass the bank feed within QBO. If you're just getting everything from Hubdoc, well, then don't set up bank feeds. Just have it come in from Hubdoc because it has a receipt attached. I mean, there's many different ways to skin this one. But I have bank feeds on, so that's my scenario. So I'm going to click Publish and Proceed, right? And I don't know how long it takes, but I'm going to go up here and see expense, $20. So this already came in. Here's the expense, because it was in the bank feed, but here it is, and here it says Hubdoc, right? There's the memo, and then here's the receipt, right? Now, remember, I did push it, so it wasn't automatic, but next time it will be. Do you know what I mean? Because I already set it up, and I checked the box to auto-sync, right? So let's go back to the banking window, refresh it, because, it's not like real-time thing, and I'm going to go into Amex and recognized. Yeah, see, 1 record found, right? That means it's a match, and then the action item is a match, so it's not duplicated. And it says, hey, there's an expense in there. Now, how did the expense get in the register? Yeah, from Hubdoc. So if you have bank feeds on and it's coming over from Hubdoc, not only is a receipt attached, but it's not going to duplicate it because it's a matching scenario, which is one of the action items, right? Match or add. So it's not $40, it's 20. Good news there. And I can click on the expense and find the Hubdoc, transaction that was created automatically. Let's pretend it's next week and I get gas, right? I upload it to Hubdoc. That's all I have to do is take the picture, it uploads, and then I don't have to do anything else except go in and, batch accept. That's kind of the automation of data entry there I was talking about. Yeah, so Receipt Bank, Hubdoc, they do that kind of stuff. Okay, finally, let me go back to my QBOA. I don't need that one anymore. And it's an accountant tool, trial balance. I think this is an 1120S file. Now, if you are using tax, so if anybody doesn't use tax, feel free to look at this because it's a way to automate how data entry goes over. But if you do, and you're using Lacert or Pro Series, you get free, any QBOA person gets like 5 or 10 free returns. So you can try it out with ProConnect Tax Online. That's our online tax software that it has the same Lacert kind of data engine, if you will. I mean, not all the same feature set. So kind of, I liken it to like desktop versus QBO, so Lacert to PTO. So very similar, where the desktop app might have just a few more features as we're building up the online offerings, over time. Automation, no, I still have to push it when I click View Tax Return in the upper right, that tab there, but I don't have to do the data input on the Lacert form. ProConnect Tax Online form, or PTO. Now, you would want to assign the tax mappings, so you would do that. We try to do it for a lot of it, but depending on your entity type, you just click Assign Tax Line, and it opens up, and I guess this is an 1120S, so, right? For those of you tax professionals, this would all be familiar. So you choose what it's going to be. I'm not going to, but you would do this before you send it, right? And you can use the working trial balance tool as well, just to see some unadjusted balances, the ending balance of 16 versus 17, et cetera. I think the one thing I'd love to see is instead of just looking at tax years only, it would be nice if I could look at a month or a quarter, right? This would be really useful as a bookkeeping tool, whether you do tax or not. Right now, for me, it's like I'm doing it during tax season, using this particular tool. Because what I can do is click View Tax Return. I mean, sure, under the briefcase, I know I can click ProConnect Tax Online, and that opens up PTO in another tab. But what I'm going to do is click View Tax Return, and then it's going to create a new return. Or I can update an existing one. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to click Continue. And it's going to open another tab. I'm literally going to be opening inside of ProConnect Tax Online or PTO. And it's going to start the return, add company info, update account balances. See, so the return is already pre-filled. I mean, that is automation of data entry. I'm not having to enter the data. So I'm going to click on 1120S, right? And this is kind of like the check return tab. There's 4 tabs within PTO: the profile of the client, input return, check return, and file it, right? If you want to go back to input, you can go back to input, and then I can look at just, what's in use. And then we would see, in the cost of goods sold, the amount came over. I have income, deductions. So I did not have to input it at all, right? After I reviewed the balances, made my adjustments, et cetera, cleaned up the data in the QBO file, then I'm sending it, and it lands on the check return tab, ready to be reviewed, And then there's all the Lacert diagnostics. Clearly, I'm not e-filing this for a while, So I got 26 issues, but go back to 1120S. Pretty cool. I mean, it just fills the forms. Well, do download the PowerPoint deck. Got some screenshots of what I showed you. I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks for coming today.